am an almost perfect straight-A student. I am an editor for 2 publications at my school, and I am editor-in-chief and head content manager of a 3rd. I play in 3 ensembles. I lead our student dance department, and I still make time to spend with my friends and family. I am an excellent student. Or at least I appear to be. You see, I fit the model of what our education system has deemed excellent. I participate in numerous activities. I've achieved top grades and strong standardized test scores. And I'm here at ALA, one of 11 students selected for the highly competitive Seagull program. From that description, you get a pretty good idea of who I am, right? Driven, intelligent, checking box after box, and fitting perfectly into the mold that's been given to me. Except I don't. I mean, sure, I'm passionate and smart, but does all that really matter if I couldn't get above a B+ on any assessment in my math class last year? If I couldn't take tests, my mind buzzing with static the instant I put my pencil to the paper? Does all that negate everything I just told you, everything that makes me excellent? So many people think so, and thus arises the issue of what excellence actually means in education. Good afternoon, my name is Harper Tyng, and today I'd like to talk to you about our education system, its flaws, and what we can actually do to fix them. It's first important to understand how this whole thing started. This, I have no image, is Mount Holyoke College in South Hadley, Massachusetts. In 1897, Mount Holyoke created the A through D and F grading system. It wasn't very popular at first, but in the 1940s, it began to quickly pick up traction due to colleges wanting to accept students more on the basis of merit than on pure legacy. It has, however, evolved into a whole other beast, dictating students' prospects for extracurriculars, colleges, and even their employment. Many people argue that grades are important because they allow for students to be compared by colleges and their employers on an equal playing field. If the system was perfect, an A at one school would be equivalent to an A at another, same as any other grade. Additionally, grades are supposed to act as benchmarks, allowing students to see where they are at compared to their peers. If a student gets a B, for example, they can see that they have areas to improve and work towards getting that better score. However, there are many issues with trying to base student intelligence solely off of numbers. The first one being, there's no real metric for what a grade or a class actually means. For example, my school functions off of an 11-point GPA, with all of our classes averaged out according to weights. Some schools use a 4-point unweighted system. Others are 4.5 weighted, others a 6-point. None of these are equivalent, yet we act like they are. Additionally, there's no standardization to what a course actually means, as I could be taking a normal level course at my school, and it could be equivalent to an honors or even AP level course somewhere else. Second, there is no way for students to succeed if they're not getting resources outside of the classroom and expected to have that structure within. For example, many students at my school struggle to read or write at their grade level. And this is primarily because they haven't had access to strong English classes, books to stimulate them and force them to push themselves beyond surface level, or even stimulating conversations to establish their speech fluency and articulation. Students struggle in STEM as well, and this is because they might have not had practice memorizing large quantities of content, or even a teacher who sat down and worked them through problems they've been struggling with. It isn't their fault that they're failing, or that they're not succeeding in the way we expect them to. It's the fact they can't get any help, and if they are too scared to ask for it. Third, what's actually considered excellent has been artificially inflated, especially over the past 5 years. This mainly comes from a thing called test optional submission. I'm sure many of you know what this is. Colleges have recently been pushing for students to be able to choose whether or not they submit their scores, and this has created a major conundrum. Students who feel like they've gotten excellent scores will submit, feeling proud of themselves, while students who are a little bit more unconfident will choose to abstain. This means that there is no middle or low ground scores in these pools, and it's causing scores to skyrocket. For example, the average SAT score at colleges in the United States has risen from 20 to 100 points, and the average ACT score has risen from 1 to 4. This means that students who are actually doing very well are feeling like they aren't hitting the 75th percentile bracket that they need to be, even if they're far above the international average, which is a 1050 on the SAT and a 19.5 on the ACT. Last, and perhaps most importantly, we don't actually know what intelligence is. Sure, many people have tried to define it. Developmental psychologist Howard Gardner stated that there's 8 categories to intelligence, each based on someone's physical, mental, or social smarts. His colleague Robert Sternberg argued that there were 3 categories. What psychologists have been able to agree on, though, is that intelligence is actually multiple spectrums. So why do we argue that something that's singular instead of plural, fluid, and unknown? It all seems pretty hopeless, right? I mean, I'm sure you've all felt it at some point. The need to get an A on this test, to keep your grade up. The fear of getting put in a bad group for a project and being destined to fail from the start. It really sucks, doesn't it? Every student's every move is dictated by these numerical values, and it's because we're afraid that if we get a low score, people aren't going to think we're smart anymore. Their perceptions are based off of these numbers that are arbitrarily assigned to us. There is, however, some things we can do to fix this. First, I would like to suggest that tests aren't the only way we should be measuring student intelligence. Tests are great, right? They assess things like memorizing content. However, they are more focused on rote memorization of bulk amounts of information than assessing things like problem solving, creativity, communication. Also, tests don't exist in the real world. It's something that you'll never have to do once you finish school. You're never gonna have to fill in a multiple choice test to get into a job. What I would argue is that we implement multiple different strategies. Projects, presentations, debates, even just some homework assignments here and there. Give students a chance to practice their skills in all these different fields that they're going to need to succeed in the real world. Second, all students need to be able to access support so that they can start from an equal playing field. Say, for example, you walk into a library and you can meet with someone who can give you a book and walk you through the steps of learning how to read it more deeply, how to understand more than just the surface level and really get into authorial intent and the language of it. Say you could walk up to a teacher and ask them to help you go through all these problems that you've been confused about. They help you through step by step, giving you the practice you need to succeed. These resources should not be limited to those who are socioeconomically capable. It should not be a race. Intelligence is not a race that those who have funds are starting meters ahead at. Everyone should be starting from the same place and being able to finish simultaneously. There's all these solutions, and yet nothing's been done. And it's not because we can't. We have the resources to do all this stuff. It's that we've actively chosen not to. We are so stuck to the idea that numbers are what identify us, are what identify our intelligence, that we are refusing to move away. And before you think to yourself, oh, Harper, how can we do all this? I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. It's such a thing that's ingrained into our society, ingrained into me and each and every one of you. What I do think, though, is we can begin shifting our focus just a little bit. Encourage creativity. Encourage taking risks. Encourage making mistakes, not as a failure to succeed, but as a chance to grow and reflect. Because growth and true intelligence come from embracing the messy and beautiful process that is learning. Thank you very much.